Don't start.
Salutations. Welcome back to the show. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Infinite Podcast. Wow, it's actually been a week with news. Finally, we've got a week with some news. So this is going to be a really good show. I'm pretty excited. There's some disagreements amongst the panel. That's when I get most excited, when people are arguing. Before we get to all the news this week, let me do the introductions. Infinite Umbra, the Ascended Gamer, the UE5 aficionado, and authority, the man who demands nothing less than the premium PC experience. Umbra, welcome back. How's your week been? How was the show? How's the thing?
Everything is splendid now that I have ascended. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rhyme like that. It's the black in me. Donte, I'm sure you relate. Yeah, bars. He gets it. See,
bars.
It just happens naturally like that. I'm glad to be here tonight with you fellas. Had a really good week. Really good show yesterday on the Fix. For those in the chat who have not checked it out, give it a view. If you've watched Deadpool in particular, check that out. I have it time stamped and everything. So in case you haven't watched it and want to avoid spoilers, you can avoid it that way as well. But really good discussion. We talked about a bunch of things in the news, including Bungie's situation too. So yeah, man. Happy to be here with you guys. I got a lot of stuff going on as far as gaming too. I modded my Skyrim on PC. So I put the Novus mod. Yes. We still got to get a better sound in the sprinkle now because Holly has ruined it by calling it like sprinkles. So now it doesn't sound good to me anymore. But the Novus mod, that's a long applause. The Novus mod, it has 2,000 mods that saw like in auto installs if you use Nexus. And man, it remasters Skyrim. It looks insanely good. Like it's crazy. But yeah, happy to be here. Let's get this show on the road.
Absolutely. Salutation. Sorry.
Wow.
Wow. Salutations, Donte, the objective gamer, the Infinite Podcast, very own Spock, the logical thinker in every conversation, whether we want it or not. Welcome back. How's your week been? What have you been up to?
Oh man, it's good to be back. Week is better than last week, so I'm happy to be back. We want to talk some games. Unfortunately, it's during a week of some bad news for the industry, so hate that we have to come back on that type of a note. But at the same time, that's what we do, right? So looking forward to the show, and let's get it going.
Absolutely, Garuda. Salutations. The frugal gamer, the PC Master Race Mod King, who's catching up, whose Umbra's catching up to, by the way. A man who only moves at 60 FPS and no less, but sometimes more. Garuda, welcome back.
Yeah. Oh man, we've got to get a better sound for that. It's got to be like an ascended sound, like something like that, right?
That'd be a good one.
Come on, bro. Come on. That is whack. Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a little while since I've been on the show. There's been, man, it's been a real quiet period. It's you know, the gaming sort of dead zone, but until this week, it's all picked up again. Some for good reasons, some for bad reasons. The industry's in a really strange place. We're getting tons of great games, but also it's an uncertain time for people in the industry as far as employment's concerned. So, you know, look, it's a strange time. As far as games, I'm struggling to find something that can exactly sort of hold my attention at the moment. You know, after you finish a game that really resonates with you, and when you're done, you feel a little bit of burnout, a bit of that gaming funk. Well, I was a little bit like that with Hollow Knight. I finished it off and pause. And you know, after that, I've been struggling. I've tried a bunch of different games, and nothing's quite really grabbed me yet. So you know, last night, my son and I, we started to do co-op on Lords of the Fallen on Game Pass, and it's pretty cool. Like it's a really nice looking game, and you know, it's a bit of fun. So I'm not sure if we're going to stick with it, but yeah, I'm just kind of waiting for that game that grabs my attention. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And me, if you don't know me, the Firebrand console purist, if you can't plug and play it, there ain't no way I'm playing it. Welcome to the show, chat. Let's get into the topics. You guys in the chat are absolutely amazing. I'm just going to quickly shout out to you guys. You guys are brilliant every week coming through, supporting us. Biff, Rinaldi, and of course, Lotus the Spree, who gifted the 5 memberships. Really appreciate you. William Riggs, welcome back to the show. You guys are absolutely amazing. Appreciate every single one of you guys coming through every week. Palpatine, Spartan 881, 661, 881. I'm getting old, you know, the eyes and stuff. Before we do get into the topics as well, I've got some super chats from last week because we didn't go live. There might be a little bit of messing around with the format of the show for the foreseeable future. We'll see what happens, but 1 week we'll be live and 1 week we won't be. It'll give us a chance to talk about some things that we're passionate about within the industry that isn't just the news. And then we may catch up on the news, the 2 weeks worth of news coming back in. But we'll have some chats about that and sort of sort out a format. So the super chat from last week was Jax82 with the $5 super chat. He said, do you think there's too many big games in the same month of September? Last year was Payday 3, Liza P, Starfield, and there's Alan Wake 2 and Spider-Man 2. I think we're going to be speaking on that really soon because some news came through just before the show and it was rumored yesterday, so we got confirmation today. Pyromad member for 1 month was just said he was using his member chat. Appreciate you. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Sith Lord with the $3 said, thanks for making my night. You three are amazing. I can't speak for everyone else. And we've done Lotus Spree. Guys are absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Let's get into the show. Salutations. Welcome back to the show. So should we... I got a thing at work for the girl I work with, and whenever she wants me to shut up, she says pasta cup. It's like a code word. As soon as she says that, I'm like, if you need a code word because you talk too much, you probably talk too much. So Bungie's cut 34.6% of its staff since being acquired by PlayStation. This comes off the back of their promise that they would not be cutting staff. So really interesting. I think it was back in, beginning of the year, they announced that they would be cutting, I think it was around about 160 employees. That's from memory. I haven't got the article up in front of me. And this week they've cut 220. They've got 155 that they've moved from the studio into Sony proper. And so I guess, so that's 450 staff have been removed since the beginning, since they've been acquired. They had 1,300. This is it's disappointing. When I look at this, a lot of people in our position, Xbox fans, would go to PlayStation and sort of blame them. I completely do not blame them at all. I think this is just really poor management on the part of Bungie's CEO. There's obviously the news came out that he has purchased $2.3 million worth of classic cars since the acquisition. And I would imagine that's not his full pay packet, right? And if you could imagine how much that man gets paid, he could have held on to some of those developers as well. I'll actually go to his statement and read that out because I think that's pretty important. Let me just quickly find that. Sorry, I wasn't super prepared this morning. That's what ADD does to you. It's a bit of a long one. I'm gonna read it word for word. So, new path for Bungie. This morning I'm sharing with all of you the most difficult changes we've ever had to make as a studio due to the rising cost of development and industry shifts as well as enduring economic conditions. Has become clear that we need to make substantial changes to our cost structure and focus development efforts entirely on Destiny and Marathon. These actions, that means beginning today, 220 of our roles will be eliminated, representing roughly 17% of our studio's workforce. Keep in mind, it's around about 34% that they've let go since they've been acquired. These actions will affect every level of the company, including most of our executive and senior leader roles. Today is a difficult and painful day, not for him, he's rich, especially following the success we've seen with the final shape. But as we've navigated the broader economic realities over the last year and after exhausting all other mitigation options, this has become a necessary decision to refocus our studio and our business with more realistic goals and viable financials. We are committing to 2 other major changes today that we believe will support and focus, leverage our Sony strengths to create new opportunities for Bungie talent. First, we're deepening our integration with Sony Interactive. working to integrate 155 of our roles, roughly 12%, into SIE over the next few quarters. SIE has.
Deepening.
SIE has worked tirelessly with us to identify roles for many of our people as possible, enabling us together to save a great deal of talent that would otherwise have been affected by the reduction in force. Keep in mind, Bungie is probably one of the best development studios in the business. So when they say keeping the talent, that is probably a very good move for Sony. Back to the statement. This will be a time of tremendous change for our studio. Let's unpack how we ended up in this position. It's important to understand how we got here. This here is clear mismanagement. This is where you read this and you think, how did you come to these decisions in the climate you're in? Back to the statement. For over 5 years, it's been our goal to ship games in 3 enduring global franchises. To realize that ambition, we set up several incubation projects, each seeded with senior development leaders from our existing team. We eventually realized that this model stretched our talent too thin, too quickly. It also forced our support structures to scale to a larger level that we could not realistically support, given our 2 primary products in development, Destiny and Marathon. Additionally, in 2023, our rapid expansion ran headlong into economic slowdown, a sharp downturn in the games industry, our quality miss with Destiny 2 Lightfall, and the need to give both Final Shape, Marathon the time needed to ensure both our projects deliver at quality for our players that our players expect and deserve. We were overly ambitious. Our financial safety margins were subsequently exceeded, and we began running in the red. After this new trajectory became clear, we knew we had to change our course and speed. We did everything we could to avoid today's outcome. No, you didn't, fuckstick. Even with the exhaustive efforts undertaken, that was very Australian, undertaken across our leadership and product teams to resolve our financial challenges, these steps were simply not enough. As a result, today, we must say goodbye to incredible talent, colleagues, and friends. This will be a challenging time at Bungie, and we will need to help our team navigate these changes in the weeks and months ahead. This will be a hard week, and we know that our team will need time to process, to ask questions, and to absorb this news. Today and over the next several weeks, we'll be hosting team meetings and town halls, team breakout sessions, and private individual sessions to ensure we are keeping our communication open and transparent. Bungie will continue to make great games. We still have over 850 team members building Destiny and Marathon, and we will continue to build amazing experiences that exceed our players' expectations. There will be a time to talk about our goals and projects, but today is not the day. Today, our focus is on supporting our people with no money and no jobs. Pete. So I think it's pretty clear to me that they've overstretched, gone too big, too quick. I think that happened with a lot of studios throughout the pandemic. However, at the beginning of the year, you would have seen the writing on the wall. So shutting down those projects would have been your first order of business. Like, let's shut down the projects and let's get those people that we don't need shifted out into SIE. They could have done that earlier this year and then really focused on the development of Destiny and Marathon. You know, that would have given them a bit of the overhead, and they maybe they wouldn't have run on the red. Maybe they would let some people go, but this is clear mismanagement. Garuda, I'm going to go to you because I know that you're usually a very soft-handed. You don't like to beat up on game companies, so definitely want to hear what you got to say.
Yeah. Ooh. Oh, yeah. You're a brave and game man coming to me first. Well, first of all, I would like to I'm gonna be me, right? I don't think that we can completely wash Sony's hands of any of all, or even partially, some of the blame for this. I mean, this Pete Parsons guy, he does sound like an absolute flog. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, look at all the vintage cars that I just purchased. How about you come around and check them out? So he hasn't just purchased them and had all these exorbitant sort of extracurricular things he spent his money on, but he's also got his employees around and rubbed it in their faces as well, which suggests that he's an egotistical piece of shit, frankly. But that aside, Sony spent $3 billion on this, and any sort of blind punter in the industry sort of questioned if that was overs from the beginning. You know, just a general casual fan raised an eyebrow to that figure. So even if Pete Parsons and his staff overpromised and underdelivered on what they were capable of doing for Sony, how the fuck didn't Sony investigate this deal thoroughly in a situation where they're spending $3 billion? That's where it's their fault. They are a multi-billion-dollar company. It's Sony, for God's sake. How did they not investigate this properly? What, you just took someone's word on it? That, oh, we're going to do this for you. We got this game in development. This is the sort of revenue stream that we're going to see continue. What, you didn't investigate to see that Destiny 3 was essentially non-existent, that Marathon is pretty average, and even from some of the behind the scenes play testing that's been done with some of the gaming media, the reception was really lukewarm for that. What did Sony do? They didn't vet this deal properly, right? So it is Sony's fault. Fuck Sony, and they're not free of any blame here. They're just as bad as each other. So I think they deserve each other. Both these companies deserve each other. The only people that I feel sorry for are the people who are losing their jobs. But both of these businesses were poorly managed, and they are not looking after their consumers. Destiny was raking their fans over the coals for quite a number of years before this purchase even took place, and the Destiny community was up in arms about that. The quality was declining, and the Lightfall expansion was panned. And Sony, we all know what they've been doing to their consumers, and probably since the start of this generation. And it was just a terrible deal. Anti-consumer, pathetic practices, poor services, misdirected first-party output as far as strategy is concerned with live service. They're in shambles, right? They bought this Bungie acquisition in retaliation, essentially, to partially the ABK deal, and the other one was that Jim Ryan was having this huge push for live service that essentially backfired because he threw all his eggs in one basket. He got a bunch of teams doing things that they weren't good at or that they weren't specialists at, and it's turned into a huge mess. So this isn't just Pete Parsons' fault. This is Sony's fault for not vetting the deal properly, which has absolutely bit him in the ass. And as far as Sony's concerned with the deal, like, screw you. You got what you deserved. I just feel terrible for all the people who lost their jobs. But I think a lot of people, and especially even the people in the Destiny community, could see this coming because they've been trending in a downward direction for some time. Bungie, I mean. But yeah, this Pete Parsons guy. Sorry, go on.
To Sony, like, how is this? Like, even if Sony, so the thing is, if Sony hadn't bought them, they'd be in a much worse position. You might not even have a Bungie. So, like, Sony stepping in is a net positive.
No, well, for Bungie, but not for Sony.
Yeah,
it's a terrible deal for Sony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, okay, I fully recognize that Pete Parsons. That's what I say. He's been fucking the dog over there at that place for years, and people knew that, and Sony should have known that. They didn't vet this deal properly, right?
That's a mining term for but doing nothing.
For doing nothing. Screwing the pooch.
Yeah.
It's just a really harsh way of saying screwing the pooch. They've been, and their fans have known it. How didn't Sony see this coming? And look, and I know it's not their fault that the business was in such a bad shape, but it was their fault for spending $3 billion on something that was clearly had huge issues. You know, Jim Ryan was just rush. We have to buy this company. We have to do this live service. No thought was put into anything about the deal. It was just it was a knee-jerk reaction in retaliation to the ABK deal and also the new direction of live service. It hasn't worked out. Pete Parsons, the fact that he's still there, it's bewildering. How is he still there after everything that he's done, right? Like that speaks to that's the measure of the man, that he's gone out and bought all these $1 million cars and he's invited people around and rubbed it in their faces and then fired them the next day. That is absolutely putrid, right? That tells you what that business is all about, and the culture of an organization starts at the top. If you have someone like that running the business, then nothing under that is ever going to be right. It's never going to be the way it should be. He needs to go, and Sony needs to sell Bungie back to Microsoft, and they need to work on Halo. That's what I think.
Absolutely not. Most of the people who were there,
I know,
who were part of Bungie they're not part of that group anymore. So
I'm aware. Merge Bungie into 343, make Halo great again. Fuck Sony, and I feel sorry for all the other people. Get rid of Pete Parsons. That's my thing.
I think your thing is always fuck Sony, isn't it? Donte. Yeah, I mean, this is I don't know. There's no denying that this is all on Pete Parsons, 110%. And unfortunately, he's just not the guy who suffers. Everyone else suffers for his mismanagement, which is sad. But What's your take on?
I'm going to agree with you on this one because I think Sony was trying to give them their proper autonomy, right? Because that was part of the deal, right? In terms of how they wanted to function, because they still wanted to make sure that their games were going to be cross-platform and, you know, kind of still publish the way they want to do. So Sony was giving them the treatment similar to, I think, the way Microsoft was giving Bethesda its kind of freedom to operate the way they want to operate. So I don't really necessarily blame them for that. They needed they needed something that was good at live service, which I admit Bungie's been pretty good with that with Destiny for a while. You're gonna have some hits and miss with their releases. So obviously we know Lightfall was not good, but Final Shape's been pretty good, and that's just going to be the nature of any live service games. You'll have a season or a release that isn't going to be too great. But I agree with where we're at now, and based on his response you just read off, to me that sounds like that's mismanagement. You know, at this point it's kind of like you got to foresee or plan for not only like growth, but at the same time you got to kind of take into consideration, like, if you don't hit your metrics, what's that's going to do to your company and what's it's going to do to the people who are employed by you. And it seems like, you know, everything that's been said in there was kind of like, it all comes from a planning standpoint, right? Everything was like, we want to do this, we foresaw this, we overextended, so that's on you. Now, maybe if we can blame Sony for probably not stepping in a little bit further and said, hey, you know, the trajectory doesn't look good to get them into the red to begin with. But that's, you know, like it's too late for that now. But I don't think it's a bad investment. I mean, at the time, people were still kind of hoping that if the price was right, Microsoft would have picked them up. And it's like, you know, they know how to make games. It's not like they're a bad developer. They're a really good developer. They can make a solid product. The question is like, when you get kind of bogged down into this consistent perpetual live service thing, you kind of, I don't know, you kind of lose your creative juice to a degree, right? So then, like, you know, like everything that you then try to do that's outside of that becomes like a make or break situation. Like now, look, like, wondering how Marathon's going to be, right? And it's like, if it's not as popular as, say, Destiny was when it first launched, then it's going to be considered like a failure. And that's just unfortunately at the time of where we're at in the industry, where there's so many different live service games that people have dedicated their time to. It's hard to get people to then buy into whatever the new thing is going to be. So it's like, to me, I prefer that they would treat themselves similar to like Bethesda and just make some good bangers, even if they're just like, you know, single or multiplayer experiences through like a story campaign or something like that. Make some of those. Everything doesn't have to be the live service, you know, maybe. So you got Destiny, if you're going to make a next one, like we're hearing even that may have been shelved, but he's talking quite a bit about focusing on Destiny and Marathon. So I'm kind of curious as to what's going to happen with that if Destiny 3 is indeed kind of indefinitely shelved. But yeah, it's super unfortunate, and it's a bigger indictment on what we've been seeing in the industry over the last couple years, with a lot of teams basically becoming the victims of poor management and overextension by people who are running their businesses. So yeah, Sony gets a little bit of blame for it, but I believe Sony needed to they need to make a move. They needed something to bring in. You know, Xbox has for live service games, you got Sea of Thieves, you got COD now, you got Halo, you got. I mean, they are like, they just have a treasure trove of a bunch of games in a live service, and Sony didn't have a bunch of that. So they need to make some type of move. So I don't think it's a bad investment, but this right now, this looks like a black eye, and they need to basically pivot and course correct, because, you know, I'd hate to see Bungie kind of just go down the drain. I don't think that's going to happen, but right now this looks really, really bad on them in terms of an optics perspective and the people who are impacted. So.
Well, I mean, this is the thing, though, that when you just point to it as bad management, as you sort of alluded to it there as well, is that Destiny's not a game that's going to bring in new players, right? That live service model, you know, like there are models that can bring in new players. So Fortnite, that's real easy for anyone to just jump into Fortnite and start from, you know, from wherever they might be 3 years behind, 10 years behind, whatever. You can jump straight in, have a good game. Destiny, on the other hand, it's not. They've vaulted a lot of their content, so you can't catch up. You don't know where the story's at. It's actually really confusing, because I jumped back in after playing Destiny 2 when it first released. I jumped back in, I think, for Lightfall just to check it out. And I was like completely confused about what to do. I was super underpowered. I wasn't playing with anyone, so I couldn't be sort of carried through. So just based on if that's my experience, and then from what I've heard from the community, it's one of those games that's really hard to jump back in. From that, you can project what kind of player base you're going to bring back to the game. Hey, like at Lightfall, at each launch of our DLCs, we've been around about this. And if you under-projected, right, if you said, this is, we were here, let's put it here, right, and let's work on the monetary value of this. This is how many developers we can manage, to keep for that. It's almost an easy business model for them to have managed and not had this happen. I mean, for any smart businessman. But the overestimating, I think, is one of the hugest failures that he's had. The seemingly just no care for his employees. I mean, but what happens? Is the thing. I'll jump to you in a minute now.
What does that mean by overestimating? Like, what were you guys working on that you were projecting that you did not properly forecast? Because like you said, right, we know what Destiny is. It has its core base. You're right, it's the harder game to probably just get into for someone who's new because it has like a story arc to follow, right? So if you get in, you're gonna have to kind of figure out where you're at if you haven't played in a while, if you're brand new. But I think like every live service game kind of has like their core base, and that's what the companies are constantly updating that game for, is for that base to at least to keep coming back, are people who played it years ago, took off some years, and then they're coming back. So you already had an idea as to what you're going to do there. Lightfall, quality-wise, wasn't there, so therefore that's your miss, right? You kind of screwed up. You pushing people back like, yo, what the hell is this? And then you have a chance to correct that with your next release, which I feel that the final shape is much better than what Lightfall was. But what else were you forecasting that you didn't properly gauge that you guys are saying that we're in the red of? Like, did Lightfall hurt you that much that you were expecting better numbers from Lightfall and it was so bad that that's where you missed? Because Marathon's not here yet, right? Like, it's not here. So what else are you guys working on or that you've done? We know you've done some consulting and shut down what was going to be the thing for Naughty Dog for the multiplayer for Last of Us, right? We know you did some consulting on that and said, hey, this isn't ready for prime time. But in terms of you guys putting forth a game, we know about Marathon and we know about, which is being made, and then we know about Destiny. So where did you mess up at? That's what I'm curious about. And that's kind of vague.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Because if you had a bad hit with Lightfall, you're in a bad position. You could easily forecast, if Lightfall is the measuring stick, you go back your last 2 DLCs before Lightfall, and then you use that measuring stick, like the Witch Queen, I think it was, and then you sort of forecast that out, like, and then understand you're already in the red. Lightfall hurt you, so we're going to recoup this. So these are the cost-cutting measures we have to make. Like, I don't think that would be a really difficult thing to do if you really sat down with your P&Ls and, sorry to get too business, but you sat down with your P&Ls, understood your financials, and then took those measures that you need to take. That's just smart business, responsible business. That doesn't mean that they wouldn't have needed to let go of developers. And obviously, when they let go of these developers, they had done that. But at that time, they could have folded in some of these developers into SIE. That would have been the responsible thing to do back at the beginning of the year. And then it just astounds me that the only thing that's going to happen to this guy is he's just going to cop a bunch of shit on Twitter, lock down his account for a couple of months, come back, and it'll all be okay. Like, forgotten, moved on. The next game they release, everyone, it's bothersome. These layoffs without any sort of conscience or ethics. Umbra, how are you feeling about Bungie's sort of shutdown? Do you think this is avoidable? Do you think it's Pete Parsons? Is it Sony? Why are we seeing this?
I mean, it's a few things. I'm going to be honest, I don't put much fault at Sony's foot or feet in this case. I don't lay the blame on them for this happening. I would lay the blame on them internally as a company for I guess being sold a bill of goods and not properly doing the due diligence to see that they weren't worth the purchase, right? And I think Microsoft, in contrast, we saw that they actually saw this and said, nope. Because many people question Microsoft immediately. Why didn't you get Bungie? Oh, they could have turned their Halo around, knowing good and well Bungie doesn't want to work on Halo anymore. And most of the people on Bungie are not even the people who made Halo. So they just got stuck by the sticker price shocked by the name, the brand of Bungie, and think it's Bungie, but it's not the same Bungie. Parsons took over in 2016, and it's been a steady thing of work culture complaints there with them, with Bungie, unfortunately. And I'm going to read some of the comments from the people who actually impacted. And this is the part that I feel sorry about. And I spoke about this yesterday. We spoke about this on the show. And some of these are hard to the human cost part of it is the heaviest part. And so we had a user here on Twitter, one of the former producers and such on Destiny. Her name is Kelly Bean, she goes by. And she says, I've been impacted by the layoffs announced this morning. It's been a privilege working with everyone at Bungie for the past almost 5 years. It's just really bad timing because my maternity leave.
Right?
Was supposed to start next Monday, and I got laid off today. And she put that in back in February. So that's things like that. You read that and it's like, like, come on, man. And then you see some of the employees outright calling Parsons out. And he locked his Twitter account so that nobody could respond to him, et cetera, et cetera. And one of his former employees, the people who were laid off, named Mads, says, dropping the news that you've laid off 220 people in a second round of layoffs after launching your most successful DLC to date and then going private immediately is cowardice on an embarrassing level. Another user and former employee named Sam says, coward, you did this, you chose this. I'm already listed as do not work with, and I don't care anymore. She says, you lied to my face, straight to it. You also invited me to come see your new cars 2 days before you laid me off. 2 fucking days. He
done a Jim Ryan like he did on that London studio, bro.
Yeah. You can also call out Phil for that too. Phil did it at one point too.
Yeah, he did. With Blizzard.
It's always a bad. I feel like you might as well not even show up if you're gonna if you're gonna lay people off. Don't show up. Just talk with them or something. I don't know, on the phone or something. But you would think after Final Shape's like success that this would have affected things more positively. But again, I think Bungie was already financially in a bad state. And this is why I don't blame Sony for them failing. I blame Sony. If I had to put any blame at Sony's feet, it would be them not properly evaluating them. And then you look at the things that have happened because of Bungie, right? For instance, they took their input as far as the factions, multiplayer. And I'm sure many of our Who brothers are kind of like, you took this from Bungie and you listed them and you took their word and said,
struggling.
And now they're struggling and you're right. So it looks terrible, optic wise. It just looks like it makes Sony look like they're incompetent, and it makes Bungie look like they were faking the funk as if they were really about something when they're not. And now they're looking, it's bad all around. So now, of course, it's about 350 jobs, I guess, or no, 320 jobs lost. They still have a sizable team now. They have 850 people still on staff. So it's not like they just got rid of everyone. And Sony is
That's true, but they were already having trouble, Umbra, with getting out the content that they have now before the layoffs. So it's going to take even longer now. That's the scary part.
Well, sure, but I'm talking about specifically. It's possible, right? We don't know, but 850 people, that's a lot of people. But even beyond that, I'm just speaking on the cost of people losing their jobs. That's what I'm speaking of directly. So you still have 850 people. If I'm going to look at a silver lining for it, it's that it's sizable, because it's 22% now. Last year was 17%. So that's what. So it's sizable. Yes, we got it the first drum round. There you go. I was waiting for it. Son of a bitch. But if there is any silver lining, is that they still have plenty of people on staff, and Sony is doing going above and beyond, doing a responsible thing by bringing and onboarding 150 of them into Sony itself, into other studios, and into a new studio that they're making also as well. And so I mean there are positives for it if you can look for that. There's not a positive in general because it's a jacked situation in general. But if I'm going to look for anything, is that it could be far worse. Look at Intel, right? With the 15,000 they laid off, which is just, man.
Yeah, that's wild, man.
It's terrible, man. And we look at and this is where we talk about capitalism, and yes, capitalism is a functioning thing that works in society, and it's the only system that we've been really shown to work effectively. But there are costs at the end of the day of capitalism too, and when it goes unchecked and God kind of gets a little wild, you get the fat cats up top. And I spoke about this the other day too, that they reap the rewards essentially, but the people, the little guy and the little man and little woman, if you will, they are the ones that suffer. And that's why I look at the real world costs when you really look at it outside of just, they lost this, they fired this many people, they laid off this many people, and you actually read their comments and you know how bad this is going to affect them. We spoke about this some time back, because as we're going to continue hearing this year, we've already said it, we knew it. But we talked about how essentially we look at these employees as a part of a cog of a wheel, like a cog in the machine, I suppose. And you just see the numbers and you're like, oh man, okay, that's terrible. And after a minute, it sounds kind of like fake platitudes when you continuously saying the same thing over about, I feel so sorry, hope they land on their feet, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why I wanted to look at it outside of just numbers and actually read what they were saying. And they are not kind toward Pete Parsons. So to me, if I had to look at this, I would say it's an inside culture of bad management in general that cost Bungie, not specifically. Yes, Alvin, I know. I'm just saying that extreme capitalism can have its negatives as well.
I think he's responding to I think Lethal Migraine. He said capitalism doesn't work at all. Always chasing profits, putting shareholders above employees. We don't want to get political, but there is exactly like Alvin said. There's not really an alternative system that gives a man the agency to change his destiny. So.
Yeah, I would say
communism hasn't worked.
Nice tie-in with the destiny, by the way. But yeah,
I would say the one thing that you're touching on. Sorry.
Go ahead, Donte.
Talk. No, I'm saying one thing you're touching on, Umbra, is like the human cost for this, right?
I knew he was going to do.
Here we go. Here you go. But the human cost on this is like super important, because to me, I think the industry needs to kind of take a look at itself, especially over the last couple of years, because the people who create the things that we enjoy, you're making it harder for them to say, hey, I want to dedicate myself to this craft.
Yeah. And
this
is the real problem. Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm like this. It seems super shaky to be in development for a lot of people, right? Because it's like it's so much constant fear of turnover and getting laid off, right? Even after like a company could release like, oh, how well the company did. Oh, by the way, we're cutting 200 people or 1,500 people, whatever the case is. So you get to this point of people who are just like concerned about like, is it safe for me to work in gaming right now?
Yeah.
Right. Is it safe for me to choose that as a career path, or should I be, do I have to think about something else, maybe graphic design or whatever the case is? So that's the thing where like, I hope the industry can really start to do better in terms of how they're managing stuff, because you don't want to push the creatives away from this, or, you're really bringing more light to being a part of larger companies. Can be kind of problematic, right? So it's kind of like that area where it's like, can you be independent and be a Larian, right? Or can you be independent and kind of survive, or if it gets so bad that you got to get scooped up by Sony or Microsoft, and then next thing you know you're caught up in a huge layoff because their numbers were good but not good enough for them to continue and retain you on, but you've dedicated 10 years into this particular craft. So that's what I'm concerned with as well from the human aspect.
Well, not just that. Like, I don't know what the cost is over in America, but we've got pretty robust education system, not just tertiary and early learning. We've also got a pretty decent adult learning. So the cost to become a software engineer it's being subsidized by the government at the moment. So right now it's $400 because we don't have enough, because no one wants to do it. But the cost normally is $60K. So you're spending $60,000 to get that degree. And then the other thing that you need to think about is like when you're talking about we're having a talent, we're going to end up with a talent shortage, which I 110% agree with. That's bang on. That is the real issue that we're going to face as gamers, or I think companies will face down the road. It's not an issue for now, but I mean, 2 years of this, if we get another third year of this, people aren't going to be looking at, game development as a profitable industry to go into, and they're going to have to be going in on passion alone. It's good to be able to, work and do your passion, but if there's no money in it and you can't survive, you're not going to do it. The other thing to keep in mind is it's not like software, it's not like game developers can just jump into a software company and start developing. It's a very different process, very different. They use some of the same languages, but a very different. So I've been told, because I'm not an expert, but I've been told this by a developer. It's completely different thing. And if you have not been grounded in both, you've spent some time in software engineering, you've spent some time in game development, you just don't have any knowledge. So when you come out of game development, you have to go back to the bottom and start again. And that's, you're talking about that's, you go down in obviously wages, all that sort of stuff would have an effect. So yeah, I think that's 110% a perfect point to make. And it's not a specific Bungie problem. It's like we said earlier in the year when Microsoft had some more layoffs. It's not a specific Microsoft problem. Like this is an industry-wide issue that we're seeing. We're seeing studios get shut down. We're seeing studios with mass layoffs. I think someone quoted the number, and I'm not too sure how accurate it is, but we've seen over 20,000 layoffs in the industry since the beginning of 2023. That's a huge number of people. I'd be interested to find out what number of people actually are within the industry when it comes to development. I imagine.
Go ahead, Risk.
You're right. No, you're right. You jump in.
No, I was just going to say, just to give more on it, because Stephen Totillo posted an article about this, but it's behind a paywall. But essentially, he was saying that Bungie's leadership overstated the studio's financial prospects to Sony. So they sold them a bill of goods, right? And of course, Sony bought them for what, 3.6 billion. I think $1 billion of that was to retain talent, which just seemed to have gone nowhere now. So they missed targets apparently following the release of Lightfall, but apparently, even with Final Shape, it sold worse apparently than the planned Lightfall. They say that's what the sources are telling him. And
so the damage for Lightfall was too much for even Final Shape
because
being good to kind of
this
gain back.
Downward trend, absolutely. What I was saying before, this downward trend with Destiny and Bungie was in full effect before Sony purchased Bungie, right? So it was trending in that direction. There was some failings as far as how they vetted this deal went from Sony's end, definitely. Because
100%.
You could see what it was already happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think too, the kind of, and I've said this before, but I think it's because Parsons, what he attributes it to, he attributed to the upheaval of dire financial straits of the studio because of the economic slowdown, because of the economy. Essentially, he says a downturn in the games industry, which I do kind of believe in some ways. And he says the quality miss with Lightfall, but this is the thing. For one, I think, like you said, better yet, I'll say this, because there's been talk many times. We talk about how gaming has kind of got unsustainable what they're putting into to make these games, right? And now we have other studios now trying to focus on AA and budgets and things of that nature. Maybe it's just too much being put into these games that are really hurting some of these developers. And I've said this before, and I kind of felt it. Maybe it's because I just don't care for them. So maybe I'm biased and skewed, but I've always felt like there was going to be a bit of a collapse of the live service type game. And you kind of see that with those that are not the top of the class. You know what I mean? You'll see the Fortnites excel. You'll see the Call of Duties excel. But then maybe even the Valorants, right? Shout out to Valorant coming to Xbox and PlayStation, but getting all those benefits on Xbox. And I feel like there's going to be a collapse of those types of games. I think gamers are kind of moving away from that. I think to me, that's what it seems to be the case. And I mean, you look at the failures of Concord, you look at the likely failure, in my opinion, honestly, of Marathon. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say that I think Bungie is going to fail with Marathon.
So
Also with what's that one by was it Jade Raymond?
Fair Games.
Fair Games. I think that's going to be a failure. I'm just being real. I'm not even trying to be negative like that because it's just not me. But
well, it's a fairly informed guess if you look at what the game's based on and the games that have been very similar to it that have fell by the wayside in the past. It's a fairly educated guess, you know.
Exactly, and that's where I'm looking at it from. And I just feel like, for one, I don't think our PlayStation brothers are really on that type of timing when it comes to first party. And I think that's where Sony is going wrong. If I did have to put any blame on them, it would be that they are handling, or at least mishandling, live service. You're gonna have to put that thing on put it on everything. It should be on Xbox. The same thing we talked about with Helldivers 2. It should be on Xbox. If you're gonna do that, Microsoft got it right, essentially by putting Sea of Thieves, for instance, everywhere.
Yeah.
Now,
live service games depend upon players. Right?
And they do. And the other thing is that Destiny's essentially been the same game for Donte. I believe you played Destiny or you have played it a lot. It's been the same game for 10 years or more almost, hasn't it? So it comes to a point where even if the content is consistently great, that there is a certain breaking point as far as, okay, we need something fresh now because everybody knows that Destiny 2 wasn't the 2. It was still essentially the same game, just like a reset, and that upset a lot of people. It's not just content; it's also getting a little bit stale. Like it's hard to be Fortnite. Okay, Fortnite just revolutionizes the way the game plays, the modes, everything about it. Not everyone can be a Fortnite.
And you know how we know that's true too, Garuda? Because you got plenty of clones of it. Even Call of Duty is taking on some Fortnite issues.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, even a great game like Bungie that had its day as far as popularity and revenue and everything was concerned, it's been the same game for 10 years. That's going to take its toll eventually, you know. And,
perhaps.
And I agree, perhaps, not always, but it's not going to remain at the same heights if you're not evolving enough. That's just my opinion, because you don't hold people's attention.
I mean, the entry into Destiny is difficult. That's the problem.
It is. It is. That's what scared me away too.
10-year game.
That scared me away. That scared me away. Yeah.
But I kind of like a fish out of water. Similar to like I not comparison in terms of the type of game, but I'm talking about like the audience, right? Like WoW still has its audience, right? There's still the hardcore people who play and enjoy WoW, and they will continue to return to it, and it hasn't evolved that much in its forever lifespan, right?
So but it was also one of the first of its kind too.
Still has its audience, right? People still play Counter-Strike. So like you can do that if you're putting out a quality product, and then you understand that like you have a finite, you know, you're not gonna grow it, but you have a finite base that's going to be pretty consistent to come back and play it, right? Yeah, and that's fine as long as you're putting out a quality product. The problem I think comes if you're saying we're going to grow this and increase our player base, and you haven't revolutionized the game in some way to bring in the new players.
Yep. That's
so it depends on like what your target is, right? Are you saying I'm catering to my hardcore who love this style of play, who are going to continue to come back, and they're lifelong, like I'm a lifelong Halo person, right? I'm going to remain so. And you know, like Holly's a lifelong COD person, she's going to remain so. You can continue to cater to them, but if you start saying, well, we're going to grow it, and this is the metrics we want to hit, well, okay, how are you going to get the people who haven't been playing your game for the last 5 years to all of a sudden say, now I want to get back into Destiny? So,
and it's a tough tightrope to walk that, because you've got a hardcore fan base that you need to make sure that you. We see a lot of games that don't respect their hardcore fan base. We see a lot of franchises that don't respect their hardcore fan base, and it hurts them. You know, look at Halo. The Halo TV show didn't respect their hardcore fan base, and that hurt the show overall. Had they done that, I have no doubt that they'd still be running. Same with games, right? You got to respect your hardcore fan base, but you also need to, it's a hard tightrope, because you need to, if you want growth, you need to bring those new players in. So you need to open that ecosystem up and make it, you know, that hardcore focused, all the things that they need to have, whilst also having, an entry level to bring people back in. And Destiny was never good at that. I would push back on the idea that you couldn't have a 10-year game. I mean, Fortnite, someone said it was an accident. Like, it was an accident. It's a very different game to the way it released now. But what they did do very, very well, which was not an accident, was they looked at what people wanted, they looked at feedback, they made the changes, and they developed that game over time, whilst looking after the fan base they had and improving the game to bring people in. And as I said,
it's gone as far as having engine upgrades and complete visual overhauls. Like, it doesn't even...
True.
Fortnite is a completely different... If you looked at Fortnite today, running the way it can and does... to how it was 10 years ago, you wouldn't even know it's the same game. But the same can't be said for
Epic
Destiny.
has a ton of money.
They do. They do.
But it's also too, they have the best engine in gaming, of course. I don't even have to say the word, but you all know. But yes, you already co-signed it. Too late. You co-signed it. But I was gonna say, Riskit, you're right about that. I do agree with you. That's fair. Right, they did listen to people when they changed things up, because when Fortnite was first talked about, it was going to be like a what was that, not even a style of game. It was what do they call that, base, like a protector, what do they call those types of games?
Tower defense,
base builder.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah, that's its initial design. Right.
I remember it in like Game Informer and such when they first announced it, and they said it was coming out. Shout out to Game Informer, of course. But they showed that, and I remember it looked vastly different, like terrible compared to what
it looked whack. It was horrible. It was janky, clunky.
I wrote it off. That's what made me never stop and play the game to begin with. But this is why I say Riskit is right, but it's also lightning in a bottle. And this is the thing why I feel like a lot of these live service games are not going to survive this, because lightning in a bottle essentially is the idiom saying it's a very lucky situation, right? It's not going to happen too often. And they managed to capture that. Of course, they did do the work, like Riskit is pointing out, but to hit it this well, that's a bit of luck on their side as well. And I think not many of these games are going to land and do that. And we already know most live service games fail anyway. That's why I was so confused when they had 12 or 13 first party games announced as that. I was like, what were you thinking? Yeah. I don't.
Fortnite's a difficult one. You can't compare Fortnite to anything, because it's more than a game now. It's a cultural phenomenon. It has impact on shaping the way culture plays out. So, young people's society. It's a huge influence. It's gone beyond a game almost at this point. So that's a difficult one. Nothing is ever going to reach that level. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that is lightning in a bottle, because Epic had a perfect storm as far as merging culture with gaming, with pop culture, everything into one thing, and making it a living and breathing platform filled with events that people want to see, even outside of gaming. It brings people who don't even care about games to Fortnite because of the content they have in pop culture and things like that.
It's taken a very long time to get to where Fortnite is here, and when they've evolved. When they first developed Fortnite, they were managed. This is the problem, bringing it back to Destiny. This is the problem with that studio. It hasn't been managed correctly. You heard him say, we had 3 projects on the go. We took away our senior team leaders. They brought on a whole bunch of new developers. They grew the team, and they weren't focusing on what was bread and butter for them. What they should have been focusing on, in my opinion, is not Marathon. They should have been focusing on Destiny 3. They may not have wanted to make that, but that should have been their next thing, and they should have looked at the entry level then. That's when you can grow your bases with a new game.
That would have got me in Riskit.
One other thing I think that Fortnite did really, really well is that because they managed it with a smaller team and grew over time, they grew with their game. They didn't grow to this ridiculous size and then have to downsize. We have seen Epic drop some... have some layoffs within their teams, but not specifically out of the studio that's making Fortnite, which brings me to our next, because there is a solution for this for the entire industry, and Microsoft is doing it. But before we jump into that, please the like button, share us out. We go live 8 p.m. EST every Friday, sometimes 8:15, sometimes 8:30. And if you're in Australia, it's 11 a.m. I got that right, Mono? 11 a.m. On the East. And if
10 on the East, bro.
10 a.m. in the East and 8 a.m. if you're in the West. Look, there's something that I've been harping on about for probably, it's been at least 2 years I've been harping on about this. I've made videos on it. I've spoken on it. I've spoken in spaces. I've spoken on this show. And we're finally starting to see it. And it's something that also Fortnite was when it began. It wasn't a huge, humongous AAA that put in a ridiculous amount of investment initially to bring the game to market. And I think with live services, you really want to start at that sort of lower level, smaller team, agile team, bringing something to market, see if it works. You haven't put a huge amount of investment in it if it hasn't. Looking at games like even Concord, that's taken a huge amount of investment to get it to where it is. And it could succeed. It could really succeed. It has great shooting mechanics. There's a lot of good things about Concord. But one of the bad things about Concord is I think that it's poorly balanced, the cost, all that stuff. All right, you got to look at all that stuff when you're bringing a game to market. And what development companies need to do, getting to the point, which I don't often do very quickly, what development companies need to do is start looking at AA development, bringing those smaller, agile teams. And we've got an article from Jez Corden, which is Microsoft and Activision has formed a new team within Blizzard to work on smaller AA games based on existing IP. So, I'm getting an echo here. That's Garuda. Getting an echo.
Yeah,
from
sorry,
you.
garage door was closing, bro.
Okay.
Sorry. This is open the garage door.
All right. Oh, good.
Good.
Still getting it or no?
Still getting it. But yeah, I'm getting it from you. Yeah, getting it from you. Hang on, let me just quickly do this. All right. Yeah, that's fixed. So I was just getting a bit of an echo and a feedback. Sorry, guys. Go back to what I was saying. Microsoft is bringing AA teams or forming a new AA studio. It's based on their existing franchises like Overwatch, Warcraft, StarCraft. It's a team from King, which makes me think the way that Jez has written this article, it seems like he's talking about, bringing smaller like IPs like StarCraft IPs. I feel like this is going to be mobile studios. In my opinion, I don't think this is going to be anything huge. I think we're going to see like a few smaller games. If you look at their MUAs, their numbers, and they're like 500 million MUAs. Look, I think Candy Crush has got something like 240 something million MUAs. So a good chunk of their MUAs are in mobile now. So I understand that there's going to be a focus on that. Congratulations to Icon. He said it's his 22-year anniversary. That is an achievement, bro.
It is indeed. Congratulations, brother.
Happy anniversary.
Just to go slightly off topic. That is awesome, man. That is awesome. I've never made 22 years. You do get less for murder, so just something to think about. Just congratulations. It's going back to AA. I think this is the way to go. So it seems to, if they do create AA games off to the side with their existing IPs, there's not much of a risk. You get a return on investment. If it doesn't work, cut your losses, move to the next game. It's not a big loss. I think this is a smart way to go. I agree with Monad, who earlier said I think AA is the future. Just a quick small topic that I wanted to relate to this topic. Umbra, what do you think? I've been talking about this for years. I think it's something that bigger companies need to do. They need to have smaller AA teams instead of laying people off. Take those teams, put them into a pool, get them to create something. If it doesn't work out, then lay them off. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can sort of blame those developers for going on. Well, it didn't work. You guys didn't do the job, and it's not working for us. We'll see you later.
Yeah, no, I like the idea, man. I mean, it just seems kind of like the industry is kind of going in that direction. You see a lot of this influx of AA games kind of taking over in spots where AAA would have been dominant lately. And I think it's just smart. And, shout out to Alvin. He pointed out, I was actually watching them today as well. My Chi-Town brother Rand and Jez Corden, they were talking about these smaller teams being made and how they would essentially, I think, make take those employees and make form a team and have them focus on making 10 to 12, I think, new IP in games or something like that, even with established franchises or IP. And I think that would be really, really smart. And I think it's one of the ways they can they can mitigate, I guess, the cost of rising costs of development. Thing is, though, they can't rest on it alone, obviously. So it's about balance at the end of the day. Not everyone wants AA gaming, even though, of course, we're trying to come to a compromise here when we talk about it. But the truth is, many of us still want that AAA satisfaction at the end of the day. You know what I mean? We still want those GTA 6s. We still want those Red Dead Redemption 3s. You know what I mean? So we still want those. We still want the Call of Duties. You know what I mean? The Halos to hit the way they need to hit. And you can't get those with AA budgets. I mean, you can, but it's going to be a lot of loss in that. So yeah, but doing that absolutely would help. And instead of just, us continuously getting the sad news of layoffs, yeah, I would love if they would actually try to experiment there and have them form a smaller team and try to make something that lasts. The thing is, too, I go back to, though, is teams like what's the word I'm looking for here? The team that made Hi-Fi Rush,
Tango Gameworks.
Tango. I think about them, and essentially Hi-Fi Rush, that was a AA, right? And I mean, I know they are probably, or at least incubating the Evil Within 3.
I think that's very different, though. Like I think that's very different because Tango. I mean, Bethesda's a huge studio. Yes, absolutely. But they used one of their. I guess it is a AAA studio. They were releasing AAA games, right? Tango Gameworks. I mean, they did the Evil Within, and those games. And then I think if you look at what they're doing with, look again as well, I would say directly to Jez, I think you're wrong. I think they're pulling across a whole bunch of mobile developers. It doesn't make sense that they put them on a AA like PC, or console game. It's very different game development, very different set of. Maybe they're giving them a chance. Who knows? But I tend to think that that's But anyway, back to what you were saying. If you think about them snapping off a team from developers that they already have, Tango didn't do that. They put all their focus onto, Hi-Fi Rush. They released that. They lost their leader. There was apparently, a bunch of developers that left, even though they denied that. But I think that the talent,
right?
Yeah, the talent, they had lost a lot of talent on the team, and I think there are a very different set of circumstances.
Well, to be fair, there were no official reports of that, by the way. There were no official reports to say that they lost all those teams. And actually, people came out and said that didn't happen that worked there. So I'm not too sure on that one. But
I know that happened, but I tend to believe that they would have lost a few developers. And maybe, if you lose 5 developers who are your 5 best and close with, Shinji Mikami, that's a big loss of talent, right? But no one's. I think when you think about this, is some people are like, "Oh, we don't want to lose our AAAs." I don't think that that's ever happening. I think they're just using AAs to support the AAA development. Look at Vampire Survivor. Imagine what it cost. It was a one-guy team. What it cost to create that game. It was hugely successful. Brought in a ridiculous amount of money. Was very, very small amount of investment with a huge return on investment. And then if you're a larger company creating a game like that, you can take the profits from that, from that game and shift it to your AAAs. That can help to support your teams. You only need 1 out of 5, of those games to hit for it to be worth it for you to do. So I think it's not removing AAA at the cost of AA. It's adding to the pool, right? Is the way I look at it.
I guess it's got to be a change of culture, though, right? Because at the end of the day, is there going to be enough to sustain what Microsoft ultimately wants from these teams? And I don't know if AA pushes the envelope far enough for that to be the case. And for that to actually happen and be a change of culture for them, it's got to be a change of culture for us as gamers. And ultimately, most of us, I would venture, want the AAA experience. That's the problem. So I don't know how. I'm trying to look at it real optimistically as far as like, I do, because I love AA games too. I love everything. So give me that. I want that, and I would love for that. It opens, in my opinion, it opens up the creativity for them because they don't have to plot out all these millions to try to make something, hundreds of millions or whatever to make something, and they can kind of have the creative freedom to try to make this dollar stretch in a way by making it count. So I feel like they'll go above and beyond with a smaller budget in some cases, right? And especially when they know that this could be the end of the road for them, so they're really going to go all out. But I just feel like I don't know how well it's going to play out for the higher ups. They're going to be looking for their ROI, and I just don't know if this does it or if it moves the ball far enough for them as far as subs and things like that, because that's ultimately what they want. They want to get these subs, and does this do that? I don't know. You know, as my boy Justin Hunt would say, I don't have the answers to that. but I would love for it to be the case. I really would. I do love the idea of it. I'm definitely not against it. I just don't know how effective it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, like I say, you might make 5 that don't hit. But if one of those hit or your 6th one hits, then it's like a Vampire Survivor. You know what I mean? Or if 5 of them do just enough to bring in that return on investment to then help support. I mean, I just think that's a no-brainer. I mean, whether it works or not is highly dependent on what they create, how they put it out, you know, and how it's marketed. You know, again, things are very different when it comes to Game Pass. This is why I, again, believe that this is more targeted towards mobile. As much as none of us want to hear that, none of us are mobile gamers.
Might be right.
I really think,
yeah.
I think pulling like teams from mobile to put them on a AA game on a PC or a console doesn't make much sense, right? You've got, I think I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but if I remember correctly, it's like 7,000 developers minimum within Blizzard. I think within Blizzard, there's plenty of teams you could pull from to create a AA game from those particular IPs. That makes a bit more sense to me if it's not mobile. But I could be completely wrong, but I just don't feel like it makes any kind of sense. And it
could be both. A little bit of,
yeah. Oh, it could be. It might be a little bit of wishful thinking from Jez, but it might not be. Shout out to Jez.
I think for us, it's a great thing for us because we've all been beating on the drum that, you know, Xbox and Microsoft has this plethora of, you know, just unused IPs that are just being left by the wayside that are going to waste, right? If this is the only way that we can get some utilization out of some of these great IPs that we love, then I'm all for it. Yeah, maybe it's not going to be the budgets that Halo and Fable and Gears and everything have and Diablo and stuff like that, but at least we know that some of these IP that we've been waiting for are going to get games. They're going to get some utilization. And I think just personally for me, well, first of all, I think that's a great way to, you know, also feed Game Pass, right? They want to make use of all the IPs that they've bought, so they're going to feed Game Pass with the more agile, nimble, smaller budget studios. And I'm hoping they take 2 or 3 years and not 5, 6, and 7 years. I think that's the plan. I hope they can hold to that. But also for me, I've noticed that my gaming tastes personally haven't completely drifted away from the AAA level games. But I've found myself playing a hell of a lot more indies. I want to see more creativity from games. I want to see games that I don't have to watch, you know, 20-minute cutscenes anymore. I don't want to try and pay attention to much storyline anymore. That's just me personally. Like when I sit down, sometimes I want to play a lot of these smaller games, which is why I find myself going to Steam and picking up a lot of these indies and things like that. So if I can get games like that from IPs that I love, fuck, we're going to change that. If I can get games like that from IPs that I love, I'm all for it, you know. So it's great news.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it 110% is. Donte, we didn't get we're sort of talking about that because I know you're having some dip in, dip out audio issues. We're just talking about the AA studios that Microsoft or Jez Corden is rumoring that they've splintered off from King. They're looking at existing IPs from Blizzard. I sort of guess, Mike, this is a great thing, I think, for the industry, but I don't think it relates to us. I think this is going to be more of a mobile sort of venture. But Jez believes that it's more of a PC console sort of AA gaming venture. Where are you at? You muted. I see.
I don't know if it's coming through for you, Donte, but
is this echoing?
There you
No,
go.
you're good. You're good.
All right, cool. I think it's probably more mobile related, to be quite honest. Because that's what King specializes in, right? Unless they're going to surprise us, and then that's how they're going to take advantage of finally giving like maybe something like Crash or something like that. I don't know, maybe because you got studios that like no one else is talking about. Yeah, we're going to pick up the mantle for that, right? So for the people who are asking for like Banjo and maybe for like Crash or something like that for those type of games, you don't hear like Obsidian or Double Fine or something like that coming out saying, yeah, go ahead and give it to us and we'll remake it. So maybe this is trying to get some of those IPs to be put into play to a degree. Otherwise, it's going to be something that's going to primarily be between mobile and, which again, it's not for me. I'm not a mobile gamer, so it doesn't really appeal too much to me. I'm more like bring me the higher end AA, AAA experiences. That's the stuff I really don't get me wrong. I do like some AA stuff, but it just the news until I hear about what games are being considered, it doesn't excite me. So it's just kind of like, okay, cool, show me more when you have something a little bit more concrete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that though. I mean, Helldivers is a AA, is a great game. So there's a lot of more great games.
It's a more higher end AA. It's closer to like its production level, the way they continue to push out content. That's closer to high end AA, AAA than it is something like.
Yeah, I mean, but they would have had that content ready to go. I mean, that's just the reality these days. If you're a smart live service game, you have some content in the bank ready to go for launch. Unfortunately, 343 didn't. But then if it's successful, you get that backing from Sony, which is obviously what they do. I think that Microsoft would do the same. Hey, if it's successful, it's doing well, like Grounded, you get that backing, you get some extra people on the team. They're going to bring it to the level that it needs to be at. So, I mean, it's all time. You could create a AAA game with 12 developers. You'd probably just need 10 to 20 years. You know what I mean? It's just the resources.
That's all.
Absolutely, the resources. Look, we'll move on, and obviously to one of the main events for this week, because there was a bit of contention amongst us about how we feel about it, how truthful some things are. But before we do, please hit the like button, share us out. We go live 8 p.m. EST every Friday-ish. And if you're in the east coast of Australia, that is 11 a.m. I got that right. And if you're in the West Coast, best coast is 8 a.m. So Avowed, salutations. Avowed has been delayed.
Leave that man alone.
I am sorry. Avowed has been delayed. Apparently, so this is the. Let me just find the announcement. I think it was dropped on Twitter. I still call it Twitter, man. I can't let go of that. It was dropped on X this morning. Xbox.
Xbox put it up.
Xbox announced so many games coming. As such, we're moving Avowed to February 18th, 2025. We have a solid release date, which is good news. To give players backlogs of breathing room, stay tuned for more from our games across Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox Game Studios at Gamescom, including our August 23rd live stream. I will be there. Look, and if you guys remember, and Donte, I don't know if you were watching at the time, but I took a beating. An absolute beat, and this is where I give Xbox the smoke. Took a beating on Twitter when Starfield was delayed. And to me, that was a bad delay. Not because the game didn't need more time and that was the right thing to do, but because they gave you a solid announce date. They didn't hit the target. It was the umpteenth time we'd seen from Xbox that they hadn't hit the target. I felt the messaging was bad.
On that one, at least. We gotta properly give the Bethesda came out and control that, right?
Yeah. And Todd said it's not written in pencil, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. This is a very different situation. Like, this is a huge net positive for me. If you have to delay, if Xbox is in a situation after the Xbox One generation, at the beginning of this generation, if you're in a situation now as a platform holder, even as a publisher, where you have to delay games to give your other games breathing space, that's a huge net positive as a gamer. When you look towards your future as a gamer, I don't see how that can be bad. And then looking at what's releasing, they dropped a graphic as well. I won't bring it up on screen, but they dropped a graphic as well. They've got World of Warcraft
next year.
Age of Mythology, Ara History Untold, Diablo 4, Call of Duty Black Ops, Flight Simulator 2024, Indiana Jones Great Circle, Starfield Shattered Space expansion, which I expect to be huge, Towerborn, not a bad game, can't say much about it, but not bad at all. Avowed, and then going into 2025, you've got Avowed, South of Midnight, Doom Dark Ages, and Fable, and they said and more. 2025 sits around the corner. That's a huge back end of the year. Pause. And it's also a huge start to next year. I just don't see this as a negative. On top of that, you've got plenty of third-party games coming as well. You've got Star Wars Outlaws, Space Marine 2. There is so much to play between now and then that and the other thing to remember, this is just the right thing to do for me personally. Stalker 2 had to be delayed again. But with good reason, and I don't think it's a reason you could ever stop using. Like, hey, we're at war. This is holding up development.
No,
we're literally in a real war.
That one's fine. No one can dispute that one.
Where our developers are dying, and Xbox is giving Stalker 2 this space to breathe. That's your third-party partner. That's an exclusive on your platform. In your service, it's a different game. Someone said, hey, you could argue that these are different games. I'm like, everything competes for your time. It might be a different game. It's still competing for your time. Just like Netflix, just like every other game that gets released, all that stuff competes for your time. You've got limited time. So it doesn't matter that it's like not the same game as the game's launching. I see this as completely just the right thing to do, a smart move to make, and for a good reason. And I know there's some contention. Some people don't quite believe that the game is ready. I really do. Just based on the amount of time they've had with it. Obsidian as a studio. And even if it's not, really, it doesn't matter. Umbra, I'm going to kick to you because I know that you tend not to believe that it's completely ready.
Oh, I thought you had more to address. So yeah, I feel like it's just PR. I don't feel like you push it that far back if it's just we're too full and it's too dense. I don't really know if I buy that. I feel like the game probably needed more work. I think you even commented on that, Risk, where you thought it needed polish in some ways. In my opinion, I feel like they just needed more time on it, and I'm all for that. So I have no problem whatsoever with this delay. To me, I think it's perfectly fine. And let's just say that's just my theory. I'm not saying I'm right, but even if I'm wrong there, fine, whatever. I don't care. Take all the time you need. We have more than enough games to play. Honestly, I'm not saying this as you're just in it because you're a Xbot. Get it right. I'm a PC master racer now, but. No, seriously, I just think it's like, yes, we need a new sound for that. But yeah, it's just a matter of we are stacked as far as games to play. Let's just be real. Let's be honest. None of us are going to be like, man, I sure would have loved to play Avowed with all these thousands of other games I'm never going to get to. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. And they have to be, mindful of other releases that could cut into this game's success as well. So I'm not. I mean, we've had plenty of games. If you look at the history of gaming, where they had poor release schedules and cadences, where it hurt that game. Look at no further than Titanfall. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine and reasonable to me to have a new IP like this, better positioned, and a time where it's going to be probably much lighter. And in February of next year. To me, I think that's reasonable enough. It's not that far away, considering that we're closer to the end of this year than not. And again, I think we just have so much to play, man. I mean, even if you go past first party, like you mentioned, we have tons of games. I'm going to be on Wukong. I'm going to be on, you know what I mean? What else do we have? I mean, let me look at this, actually. I have a list out. When people, we have Astrobot. We have Warhammer Space Marine 2. We have what else? I mean, for racing fans, you got the Test Drive Unlimited. What's that?
We got what? Did you say Astrobot?
Astrobot, yes. Give me the pony. There you go. I knew you were going to do it.
Yep, you deserve it. You deserve it.
It was obvious. That was obvious that time.
You had that coming, bro.
Hey, listen. I'll be a pony for that one. Astrobot actually looks like it's going to be pretty fun. I'm going to be honest.
It does, man.
Yeah. Yes, I mean you got so many other games. We still have Aura and A History Untold. You got the remakes and such, as like Lollipop Chainsaw. You got the Legend of Zelda, Echoes of Wisdom. You got a lot of good stuff coming out. And even if you go past that into October, you got the Vessel of Hatred expansion for Diablo 4. You got
Call of Duty, all that.
Yeah, you got Call of Duty,
that?
you got Metaphor, Refantasio, you got the Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, you got that New World game, you have Super Mario Jamboree, Turtles. I mean, it's a ton, and I mean, it's a lot, right? And I'm just kind of looking at this list and reading it off really quickly, but it's a ton of games to play. And I just say that just to point out that nobody, in my opinion, and I wrote a tweet about this, I don't think anybody should really feel a negative way about this. Now, I did have my brother Crusader who responded. He said absolutely not fine with it. They advertised that lineup in an infographic just 2 months ago, and now it's too dense, delaying my most anticipated game of the year into next year because they couldn't schedule a proper release cadence and advertise something too dense, ain't it? And this is why I feel like it's PR. And because because for reasons like that, where people were like, yeah, now you're saying it's too dense when you just told us this. I feel like maybe it's more than what they're saying. You know what I mean? That's just speculation. But again, in my honest opinion, I just don't see the problem. Honest to God. And I am anticipating Avowed. I think I was the most positive about Avowed actually on this panel, if you remember, Risk. Like I think you and Pete at the time were like kind of like, not really feeling it visually and such. Remember that? I was actually the most positive. So I don't want anybody like, oh, you're just being negative. Nope. I'm all for this game. I'm excited for the game. I can wait. Just that simple.
Facts. You're muted.
You're muted, bro.
You're muted.
Muted, Risk.
Silence is not
Problem
golden.
is I'm talking
There
to
you
myself
go.
because
There you go.
I haven't got my mic on.
Crazy. Yeah.
But like this is the thing. Like I think Stalker. Like look at the timeline. So I don't think it's PR. And you know how skeptical I am with stuff. I'm completely skeptical with Xbox and the things that I give them smoke all the time. But this one, Stalker got delayed in very short order after that. Delayed into the period when we would have got Avowed. In very short order after that, matter of weeks, we've got Avowed being delayed, pushed back, and almost the same amount of time, right? Almost giving them the same amount of space. So it just looking at this, it just feels like to me that this is not one of those PR moves. That's just me, and I understand we disagree, but yeah, I don't know, man. It doesn't have that feel to it. It doesn't have that bullshit feel to it. You know, you can kind of smell it, and I can't smell it. Donte, can you smell it?
Hold up. All right, let me focus.
Do you smell what the Rock is cooking?
Damn, that's a long one. All right, you can stop. Crickets. Thank you. All right. So nothing, not taken away because you can completely possibly be right, Umbra, in terms of that. Like maybe it isn't ready, but I'm gonna go if I'm gonna believe them, and the reason why is because of some of the games that you were mentioning that were coming out in terms of not just Xbox first party stuff, right? Just other big third party games that are going to come out, be it ones that are releasing on Xbox, so like like you mentioned Stalker, and then you mentioned Space Marine. So it's kind of like looking at that and then probably wanting to make sure Avowed gets its just due. They don't want Avowed to basically just kind of come and then don't you dare risk it. Don't you dare. All right. They don't want Avowed to kind of show up and be like, oh, a little splash in the pan, and then I think they want it to be pretty successful. Another thing I was looking at is kind of looking at like, all right, so if the rest of the year is pretty stacked between some first party stuff and also third party stuff, then how 2025 might be looking. What if it's being strategically placed that way because Avowed's the early part of the year? Maybe we get South by Midnight close to summer. Doom of the Dark Ages, September-ish, whatever. Fable, it bookends the year. So maybe they're kind of also looking at from that standpoint as well. Like we got enough between third party and our first party stuff to end out 2024, but we don't have nothing really going at the beginning of early 2025 until South by Midnight and Doom and everything is ready. So this would be one that would have its own time to breathe in the early part of 2025. That also keeps us in a spot where people aren't saying, where are the games? Like, where's your games at the beginning part of the year? Because that's what happened this year.
Because
right?
they never have games at the start
Right.
of the year.
Yeah, we
never.
waited forever before Hellblade finally hit, right? There was nothing at the early part of the year. Then finally Hellblade comes out. So maybe they're also kind of doing that to make sure they have something that's kind of quarterly happening into 2025, since they feel pretty confident that they got enough stuff to round out 2024. So I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say that, I believe it is pretty much ready, and this is just more about giving it just due and also making sure it doesn't get caught up into other heavy competition.
Yeah, I understand it. I mean, it still gives them time to polish it even better, right?
Yeah.
No pause.
Which is never a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
We're all cool with that. We'd rather see the most, want to see the best of your palette, of your product, the best of your product, as opposed to something that needs patches and it's like, 6 months later, it's really
100% agreed. We've got too much of that nowadays. 100% agreed.
What you think,
I think I see this from two sides, really. One part of it, not to sort of go against the trend, but I don't believe that it doesn't need a delay, simply because I think when I look at the game, I don't think it looks that good. And now I'm not trying to be negative. I need to preface what I'm about to say with letting you guys know, Obsidian is probably my favorite studio. I think they are, because Grounded is my all-time favorite game. They made Fallout New Vegas. They made Knights of the Old Republic 2. They made The Outer Worlds, which I also love. They make the kind of games that I love. Real RPGs with narrative consequence. You can kill anyone in the game. You can alter the storyline. You have full player agency to do whatever you want to do. Their games are fantastic, right? They always are great. I don't think they've actually missed. And I hate saying that because we've said that a few times in the last few years, and then look what happened. But I was super, super stoked when I saw the reveal trailer for Avowed. And then when they went, like a lot of people were, and then when they completely changed the art direction and they scoped the game down, I don't like the way it looks, and not just from a visual art style. I don't like that either. Too much purple, too much green. I just don't like it. It just looks like a VR game to me. A more polished VR game. I'm not trying to slander the game, right? I love Obsidian, but it doesn't look great. Mechanically, it looks really stilted and clunky with the attacks, the way the enemies react. I don't think it looks that good. It's improved since we first saw the gameplay, sure, but it still doesn't look what Obsidian can do, right? That's just my opinion. So I think the game does need a delay. How much that delay really changes anything in the game, I'm not sure. But also on the flip side of that, I also understand why Xbox would delay it. They have had a perennial problem with having games in the first half of the year. And that goes back to the very start of this generation, maybe even longer. Even in that 2021 year when they won Publisher of the Year, it was all a back-ended year. It really was. They had very little before June, and they need to address that. They really need to address that. It's a big problem. However, it just irks me a little bit that they say, okay, we know you've been through the whole years and years of drought, Xbox fans. Xbox has no games. You guys have been waiting years and years and years. Oh, now we have too many games and you can't have them. I think it's a bit rich, okay? Just release the games when they're ready. Drown us in games, because God knows we've been waiting. We have been waiting, right? If the games are done, they're not. It's not like all the games they have coming out are of the same genre or of the same ilk or of the same type. They're not. They've got
still competes for your time.
It does.
Yeah, I get that, but the games aren't going anywhere, right?
Live service.
What you like is not what she likes, and not what he likes, and not what they like, right? Yeah. So it's about look. we've been waiting for these games, all right? If they're done, they're done. They are not Nintendo, okay? Nintendo have been known to hold on to games for multiple years, in fact, to release at a time when they have a quiet period. They're known to do that. They just sit games on the shelf and pull them out. Xbox, you don't have that cadence yet. You don't have the right to do that yet. You haven't earned that release cadence. You haven't earned the goodwill of the fans to be able to hold games back just because you think you've got too much now. No, you've had multiple years of content droughts where you only have games in a 3-month span for years and years and years. It's well known, it's well documented. I just think it's a bit rich for some fans, and that's why they're reacting badly, because we didn't have any games, and now you're saying we've got too many, so you can't have it. I think that's a little bit rich, and I also think the game needs a little bit more polish. So either way, it doesn't upset me.
People.
Yeah, I think it is, man. I think that we're just a little bit, the game is just a little bit fed up. I don't personally care because my backlog is so extensive and I don't have the luxury of the time that some other people might have, and I'm enjoying what I play. I've got a big backlog, but I don't buy it for a second that it's just because they've got too many games there. I don't. Mm-hmm. It needs time. Looks rough.
I mean, I do.
I mean, well, here's my rebuttal to that, because like Outer Worlds looked kind of stiff in terms of its combat, but the game still turned out to be pretty good.
It did. It was nice. Played nice.
Obsidian's never, like, until they start showing me situations where they're not delivering upon the promise of a quality product, then I'm not, I can say, like, we can say whatever how something looks. I'll trust that you're not going to put out a dud, especially for something. This was the game that they were saying a while back as to why they acquired them, as to what they were really excited about. Xbox was saying that this was one of the reasons.
Yeah, sure, but it completely changed vision after they bought. Yeah,
but I heard that that trailer was like not even supposed to be like, that was a trailer that got produced for specifically like, hey, let's show you something, but it was never supposed to be like, this is what the game is going to look like.
Sure, but it's become an albatross around the company's neck because everybody loved that as opposed to what sort of come later. So it kind of set an unreasonable expectation.
I can get people being upset and saying, hey, like, I saw this trailer, I was expecting this look, and I get that, but I'm just talking about the company itself is known for putting out quality games that have quality gameplay. So for me, I'm not so much as worried to think that like it'd be really surprising if it's like, oh man, this really shit the bed, and this was.
I'd be shocked as well. Yeah, you're right. They've earned the benefit of the doubt. If any studio Xbox has earned the benefit of the doubt, it's Obsidian. I'm not trying to be too harsh. It was just more of a personal thing about the way I think the game looked. But they are my favorite studio, and they have earned the benefit of the doubt. You're right.
Right. So I'm a little less concerned with like okay, great. If you are taking more time for polishing, fine. That's completely cool. But from everything that I've been hearing, it's supposed to be pretty close to done.
Yep, so I just hope I hope it plays better than it looks like it plays. That's all I really do. I really do.
That's fair.
But that's not something you're fixing in a couple of months. You know what I mean? Like that's giving yourself space, the space of the couple.
Sound like Zordon off of Power Rangers. Rangers, you have an attack on what was the name of that? Angel Grove.
Angel Grove. It wasn't that, was it?
I think it was Angel Grove.
Yeah, that's. Oh.
I totally did not mean to do that.
I had a feeling. I'm like, is he doing it on purpose? I don't think he is.
I thought you were doing it on purpose.
This is definitely wasn't on purpose.
That was definitely not on purpose. Like, look, to me, I just the leading up to it, the delay of Stalker, the amount of games dropping, like everything says to me that this game is ready. And again, as well, the fact that you're not fixing mechanics, you're not changing art style, you're not making any significant changes to a game in that time frame. All you're doing is polishing. So maybe there's still bugs there. Absolutely, I'm willing to accept. There's always going to be bugs even in releases these days. There's always a day one patch. Maybe there's still bugs there and they're just trying to sort of refine those as well. That could be happening. But I tend to believe that this is 110% ready. I think it's the right decision. And you guys know me. You guys know that I've been traditionally extremely harsh on delays from Xbox. Extremely harsh. It's and like the Starfield one. I mean, you guys remember I lost hundreds of followers and subscribers because of how harsh
you also lost your knee, I believe, to me, didn't you?
No.
Damn.
Yeah, you lost a kneecap. I remember that.
Damn.
How does that even fit for that?
Moving on. Before we do move on, let's shout out to Lotus Spree. Really appreciate them. They gifted 5 memberships. Guys, please reach out in the chat and say thank you. I really hate it when someone gets gifted something or someone drops a game in the chat, which hasn't happened for a while. But if it does, well, they don't say thank you. It's just, I don't know. I'm just one of those polite people. I'm not really polite, just with manners, you know? And then I'm an asshole everywhere else. The manners, good. Asshole everywhere else.
Moving on to the next topic.
Yes.
We are talking about...
The hell are we talking about now? Oh, the Xbox GamesCom! So I'm pretty excited about this one. Literally, I've got my suitcase packed. I'm just going to pop my audio gear in once the show is done. I'll be doing that. And I'm ready to go. I fly out tomorrow. I'll hit Spain. I'll be in Spain for a month. I'm sunning myself on the roof. I won't be. I'll be chasing after children. But it's going to be fun. And then I'm heading to Gamescom. Super excited. I got my Starfield jacket packed. I'm ready to rock and roll. But then Xbox made it even more exciting for me when they dropped the news that there would be 50 games and 40 playable games. And the most exciting one of all of those for me, they've got a huge list of games that they released on their website to show you what they would be showing. They've got hands-on and obviously ones where you can have photo opportunities with. You know, you've got games like Atomfall. We get to check out Atomfall. So I don't know if you guys remember, that's the Fallout-esque
Looks like
game.
Fallout,
So that'll be super awesome. We've got Star Wars Outlaws. I'll be able to get my hands on with that. Space Marine 2. I am so excited to play Space Marine 2. You do not understand. They will not be able to pull me away from that booth. Like I'll staunch anyone comes.
Bro, I've got that game right there. But I don't want to play it. I don't want to spoil it. It's out there.
Yeah, don't do that.
I've got it. I know I haven't, but it's there. It's there.
It's not complete. It's not complete. I mean, what else have they got? They got Marvel Rivals, which I didn't get a chance to play the beta of. I've been super busy, sort of getting ready to go. I spent $700 on a passport. 700s. That's a totally different story. I'll tell you guys later on. The Alters has got hands-on. So I know Holly was talking about the Alters, and there's a demo on Steam. So that and she's saying it's really, really good. So a bit of a sleeper hit. So I'm pretty excited for that one. If you guys don't remember, that's the one where he crash lands on a planet and he keeps cloning different types of himself through like some sort of temporal technology. Really interesting.
Yeah, people are saying it's pretty good, man.
Yeah, I'm hearing really good things about that. Replaced, I'm waiting to see the release date for that one, but I get to get hands on with that. This is just me gushing about what I'm going to do while I'm there. Visions of Mana, I didn't get a chance to play the demo of that either because I've been again like super busy. Stalker 2, Little Nightmares 3. There is so many. I mean, Descenders 2. I don't know if you guys very early when we started this show. 3-4 years ago, I was playing Descenders 1 a lot, and great game. Love that game. So there is so much here at the booth. They're also, they're going to be obviously showing, they've got Age of Mythology. They've got Avowed in the Theater presentation. Sea of Thieves, man. Stop bringing that to shows, Xbox. Everyone knows it exists by now. We don't need this shit. Elder Scrolls Online. We're going to see Starfield Shattered Space. There's an Indiana Jones, I think Deep Dive will be, World of Warcraft. So there's just a lot, I think, for everyone. I'm super excited. The booth looks absolutely massive. The booth looks absolutely massive. I cannot wait for this. I'm super hyped. And I know you guys couldn't possibly be as super hyped as I am because, you know, you're not going. I'm not rubbing that in, I'm just saying. Yeah, it's looking great, man. I really cannot wait to get there. This is going to be an experience.
How long is that flight?
Well, I mean, you know, flights aren't as long when you go business and first class. So, you know, I sort of see it as like the beginning. The beginning of
amount of time.
It's still the same amount of time, but I'll be standing in a bar, not sitting next to some sweaty dude. I'll tell you a story, guys, later on. Oh, your daddy Kazana with the 5 memberships. Thanks, man. You're an absolute legend. Guys, make sure you thank you, Danny Quezada. So, guys, thoughts on Gamescom? What are we hoping to see? There's stuff that they haven't announced, they haven't said. We know that that's true. They've been transparent with some things, but I think we might get a couple of surprises. So let's talk about if there is a surprise there. You know, we've got the controller, which we've heard is being tied to the next console. So if you guys remember the haptic feedback
controller.
the haptic feedback controller. But apparently, from what I've heard, that's being tied to the next console launch. They were going to release that separately. Now that's true, he's not lying. I'll need several changes of underwear.
Just walk on to people like,
just fall to the ground. Anyway, back to the controller. That's tied to the console, so I don't think it's going to be that. But that it could be. You could see they could be like, well, let's give a little tease at the console. I doubt it, but they could also go, hey, we're announcing a handheld. Just a quick announcement, quick flash up on the screen. See you later. That could happen. So there's plenty of things they could announce. So just going around, what do you guys think? We're going to see if we get any surprises. And I'll be right back because I can hear my dog in the bin again.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Go into Garuda. What do you think? What do you think we could see?
Oh man, there's already so much there. It's very difficult to kind of think about something that hasn't been announced. I'm not sure that Gamescom traditionally has these huge, big announcements, but it also looks like, you know, Xbox are going to change the perception as far as that's concerned because they're showing out a lot more than what they have been in the past. So, I mean, anything could be there, but 40 plus games with, what did they say, 30 of them or 30 plus are playable, or 40 games and 50 games and 40 are playable? Yeah. Yep. I mean, that's incredible. That's wild. And they've explicitly said that, you know, that's not all they have to show either. So you would like to think that with the amount of eyes on that event, that there's going to be things we don't know about that are going to be announced. And I you know, me being the frugal gamer that I am and the greedy gamer that I am, I want to see, you know, always want to see Game Pass announcements. I want to see some of these big games. Something like, wouldn't it be great that at the nth hour that you know, Space Marine 2, for example, was confirmed for Game Pass, because I know there's a lot of conjecture out there that it was announced for Game Pass, but that was actually incorrect. That was false news. It hasn't been, but something like that, a big game like that, you know, that is imminent being announced for Game Pass would be fantastic. Just to know, just to get the feedback from the boots on the ground there that these games that are in people's hands, they're good. I want to hear good things, because last year, remember at Gamescom, Stalker 2 and stuff was there, some of these big games. The reports out of there was that some of these games were a little bit rough, you know, and they needed time. I want to hear that these games are great. That's the biggest thing for me. It doesn't matter how many games they are if they're not good. I want to hear they're in good shape. Look, there's been some really, like, this is a long shot for me. This is just a personal thing for me. But there's been some rumors and whispers this week that Obsidian have started a new project, right? A smaller project. Look, a lot of people are saying it's Grounded 2. If they announce that, bruh, like, I know a lot of people don't care, but I love that game. It's my favorite game ever. If they announce Grounded 2, oh, bruh, that would be just like the pinnacle for me. But yeah, give me lots of Game Pass stuff. Just give me all the games on Game Pass. All the games on Game Pass, bro. Yeah, that's me.
Give me all the games.
Yeah, bro.
All them games. You're muted again, man.
And yeah, going back to what you guys were saying before, I'm really keen for the new controller. I really want to see it. I know that it's most likely going to be attached to the new system, and we're probably not going to see anything about the new system here. But the new controller with all the haptic feedbacks, fully updated, or even an announcement for an Elite 3 or something like that would be awesome. I think Xbox is long overdue for something like that. The controller's great, but there's a lot more things that we could be doing with it. And I think that if Xbox had those features, they would actually implement it into their games, unlike PlayStation, which is essentially just a gimmick at the moment, because their features on that controller have been underutilized at this point. Riskit, we still can't hear you, buddy.
Riskit, you're muted, fam.
Oh, I didn't know it was muted.
That's
I don't really.
I said it like 3 times. That's crazy. Yeah, that's wild.
You can see my dogs coming in and out of the room. So, Yeah, I don't think you'll get grounded too, to be honest. But with the implementation of haptic feedback, I'm gonna have to do this.
Wait. You've just killed me. You've shot me in the heart, brother. What makes you think we're not getting grounded too? Because I don't know if you heard before when you went out, it was sort of announced or not announced, but leaked that this week that Obsidian, a small team at Obsidian's are working. Well, not a new studio, but they got a small team working on another game. Wouldn't that sort of correlate? Because they announced a few months ago that Grounded has had its final update. Those people are doing nothing now. So sort of, come on, give me something. Throw me a bone, bro. Like,
it's not Grounded.
And not that bone. Ah, fuck.
I don't think it's Grounded 2 at all.
Killing me.
But also, with the haptic feedback, which you said on the, I think it's sort of a little bit unfair to PlayStation with haptic feedback, and I'll tell you why. Yes, their first parties could have done a lot better with haptic feedback, and I think the opportunity, the usage of it, if you play Astrobot, is fantastic, and first party studios could do more with it. However, when you're asking third party studios to develop for haptic feedback when they've got two other SKUs, Xbox and PC that they look at that don't use those haptic feedback features, it's sort of wasted development time. So I think if it's an industry standard, that we've got haptic feedback, I think you'll see a lot more of a use case.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little unfair, but the first party studios really need to lift on the haptic feedback.
That Astro's Playroom out of that pack-in game for PS5, I had it. PS5. I don't have a PlayStation anymore because I'm not a pony like you guys. That got me super stoked. Well, bro, I'm just keeping it real. You guys are all ponies because you have a PlayStation. Anyway, that game got me super stoked for what was to come for the generation because of the utilization of that controller in that game. That game was amazing too, by the way, but the utilization of that controller, I was super pumped. I was like, their first party games are going to kick ass with this controller, bro, but we never seen anything come close to the utilization that they did with Astro's Playroom. We never seen it come close. But I think with the new, that's why I'm super stoked for the new Astro's Playroom, which I won't be able to play because I don't have a PlayStation. But I think they're going to take it to the next level with that controller with the new Astro's Playroom.
Answer that question?
Because that's the only way to play that game, isn't it? You playing? Well, what I miss? I missed something. Sorry, bro.
No, I need a PlayStation. I don't have a PlayStation. I need one though.
Oh, really? Then I take it all back. You're not a pony, Donte. You're a cool guy. Nice guy.
Over here just living my Xbox life. In my PC life, but no, I'll get one. I'm a gamer, so. But all right. I'm sorry. What's the question?
The question is, what do you think we might see in the way of a surprise? The GamesCom.
Jack shit. That's what I think is a surprise. That's crazy. No, man. Like I really, and I would love to be proven wrong, but I really feel that this is going to be just like a thing for people to get hands on us on the games that have already been announced. If we're lucky, maybe we get some dates for so when we look at that post that even Phil Spencer recently retweeted about what's coming for this year, right? You look at the games that don't have a date, which is Indiana Jones, Shattered Space, Towerborn, right? So if anything, maybe they announce some dates next week.
Yeah.
So this doesn't say to be determined or TBA. But outside of that, man, it's not been known as a show where they're going to be like, yo, here's this great new trailer for something that we didn't want to show you at our own conference in June, but check this out, surprise, and this is coming in 2025. It hasn't been known for that. So if they're going to change that, where and give people a reason to tune in to GamesCom to make it seem like it's a big event where something major can be revealed, then okay, cool, surprise me. But I feel this is just going to be like all these games we've announced. Get hands-on, get people to talk about them, and get to see it. Like, if it's like, you're right, last year with Stalker, we heard some negative things about it. So hopefully this year we hear some games that are like, these things are actually performing well and they look good. And then maybe we get some release dates. But I don't think we're going to get a controller. I think that, I really feel that that's going to be with the new console. Whatever the.
I think you're on the money, bro. I was just wishful thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, it would be cool because we've been hearing it rumored for quite some time, but it just seems weird. Like I don't know if there's a company, have they ever just kind of released the peripheral in terms of like something that in depth? Because that's going to be that to kind of rival what Sony's controller is. That's something that you would want to be like, hey, this is pushing our new system to sell the system as well. So I don't know if a company's ever just said, yo, here's this.
Yeah.
here's a refresh of the controller, but not necessarily a better console to go along with it. So I feel like that controller is going to be with like 2026 when we probably hear something about the next Xbox. To be quite honest,
I think you're right, because they launched this generation. As much as I liked my Series X when I had it, and I appreciated the advancements that it did have, I think on the Xbox side, they lacked a few key, this is next gen, this is why you upgrade kind of features. They need to launch the next system with a new UI. They need to launch it with a new controller. They need to launch it with features like that make it feel fresh. And I will say that that's the advantage that PlayStation had over Xbox at the start of this generation. The system felt new, whereas Xbox didn't feel new. Okay, and I think you're right. They'll hold that stuff back for the new system.
Yeah, Spartan, I agree with you in terms of the PlayStation's 4 controller's battery, because of its battery life, was atrocious. Like that thing, you could have to plug in after like 2 or 3 hours of play. I haven't played with the 5, but people who have used it said the features are nice. It's just also another one that its battery sucks, which is kind of weird too, because like if anyone who owns an Elite, that thing lasts for days, son.
Oh, bruh.
Like days. I charged mine like 4 days ago and it's still going. So I don't understand like any company in the big gaming space not having a controller capable of basically doing what the Elite does, where you got days worth of use and put that thing in a charger and you're days on in again, versus something that you can't play a full 8 hours in a day if you're trying to mainline a story or something like that without having to recharge it. So that's
right.
wild to me that they still haven't fixed that, but whatever.
And also, you can't just charge a PlayStation controller with any cord. Like you need a specific sort of fast charge cord for it to actually charge. Because I've tried charging it with a whole bunch of tried with a whole bunch of different cords, and it'll charge straight out of the PlayStation with any cord. If you want to charge it somewhere else, you can't. You have to. You need, damn dog. You need there's like a ghost behind me. You need a fast charge cable for it to work. Otherwise, it won't charge. So, yeah, it's taking me a while to figure out which cords in my house will charge it, which is nuts. Umbra, I want to jump to you. What are you thinking we may see? You could even see something from Xbox or for Steam, because I know that you love your PC, and Xbox, you hate the Xbox now. So you can tell us about what you think. Maybe
I mean,
like to see.
Much like Donte said, we wouldn't see the new controller here because it's not their main showcase, right? It is the most popular, I guess, showcase with as many people that attended, 300,000 or something like that, I think. And so it's the most popular as far as that goes, I think, because of the people that go to it and visit it. But I think if we're talking about eyes on the situation, I think that they would probably err on the side of having it at their June showcase or the VGAs for something like that. So, but I think it's just something we'll see finally at the launch of the next consoles, honestly. Now they could go the route of showing us a volume 3 or version 3, I suppose, of the Elite controller with it. That's possible. That I wouldn't take off the table. But I think as far as their next iteration of the typical Xbox controller, I wish they gave the Xbox controllers a name. By the way, you got the Dual Sense, the Dual Shock, but we don't have any.
You used to have it. You had the Duke and the Controller S, and you had
that's true. We did have the Duke,
the Duke.
But but as far as what I'm excited for, I mean, they're showing. We don't really know all these other games that's going to be shown. I mean, we know about obviously. Diablo 4's expansion, Fallout 76 with their new expansion, Star Wars, which I'm excited for, Star Wars Outlaws, Space Marine 2, Stalker 2, Atomfall, all the great. I am in Towerborn. I am excited for Elder Scrolls Online Gold Road, because I think I'm going to actually try to get into that eventually, due to me doing a whole modding thing and such now. So I think there's tons to look forward to. But I don't know if we have a de facto list to look at all the games listed. This is like Donte said, it's just a refresh of what they've shown us, and really it's going to be kind of more of a focus on that. So this is really for the fans. I don't know if it's really going to be something where if we're watching it, it's going to be like, oh man, I saw something new. I'm sure they'll have a few surprises of games coming to Game Pass that'll be announced. But other than that, I don't know if they're going to showcase anything that's brand spanking new, as they would say. But hey, come on through August 21st to the 23rd. I'm excited. Let's see what they got in store for us.
Umbra, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
If they released an Elite controller, an Elite 3, right? But let's say it doesn't have the features that whatever that new haptic one is supposed to have. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, would we rather them not do that and be like, because then like a year or two later it comes out the new Xbox with the controller and like the Elite 3 doesn't mirror it with some of its haptic capabilities and stuff? Or would you want them to kind of like want the Elite 3 to have some of the same haptics and all those whatever features they're building into that controller, but then the Elite 3 version of that particular controller?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to make sure as they
I'm
would say,
wondering, like, if the Elite 3, so like let's say the Elite 3 comes out later this year, right? They're like, they announced it at GamesCom, like, boom, it's available. And then, like, boom, you purchase it, and it's kind of like similar to what the Elite 2 is, but, maybe some just better build quality.
Donte, if that happened, that would tell me that console's not coming until 2027.
Right. Because then if, like, next year we hear that 2026 is coming and here's a new Xbox with this controller that has all these great haptic features, but now you bought the Elite that's like, that thing's usually $200 or so, like $250
I see what you're
whatever.
saying.
Right, and you're like, wait, the Elite can't do those things,
right?
You know
Even
though I
paid this
that's
premium
the only thing I'm scared about. If you announce an Elite and it doesn't have the same haptic capabilities as whatever you're working on.
Yeah, that's a fair point. If they're going to bring out the Elite, it's going to have all the good stuff with it. So I'm with you on that 100%. So that I think in keeping that in mind, it's likely then that the Elite won't come until after we get the new iteration of the controllers, to be fair then.
Or at the same time,
that's my fear, at least.
Or around the same, they could do it at the same time, to be fair. But listen, I will say this too. After playing with the Elite controller for as long as I have with my Elite Pro 2, it is tough to go back to a normal Xbox controller. I'm just going to tell you that. So whenever they announce it, I am definitely going to get the version 3. What's up, Idle Sloth? What's up, brother? Yeah. And as far as Gamescom, I don't know. I'll risk it up. Like, how would you plan on, by the way, since you're going out there, just as an aside, how would you want to handle that as far as getting footage for things like that? Do you want to try to do like a show while you're out there, while live and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I might put something together depending on logistics of how I can manage that. But when it comes to so I mean, I actually was talking with Idle with if you guys don't know Alan Freely, Idle Sloth. I was talking with Alan yesterday, and like what he was doing and what I was sort of how we were seeing it. So for me, this is my first in-person like huge gaming convention event, right? So I don't want to spend too much time trying to, like worry about the work side of, I don't want anything that sort of take away from the actual experience. So this time, probably not going to try to capture too much. I do have a, one of the things that the kids use these days. You put your phone on the thing and you walk around like a tourist. I've got one of those just in case.
Stick?
I got a selfie stick, right? It's got little button stuff and things. But like, I got a selfie stick to sort of walk around just to give people an idea of what the event's like. But around capturing footage, not so much. I probably will write a few articles, and if you guys haven't headed over to the Gaming Circle podcast's blog, they've got a blog in there with reviews, and they're building articles and opinion pieces and some from community members that you guys would all know in the chat. And I might write some articles and just some first impressions in there, and maybe do a couple of videos when I'm back home once I've pulled down all my notes. But from capturing footage, I'm not sure how it works. I need to go check it out. And I don't have Media Pass. And Media Pass, they would usually allow that. So I don't know if they'll allow it, like what will happen. But I might try to capture some sneaky footage. It does have in the booths, though, and I don't know what exactly it means. It does have like camera opportunities for specific booths. So I think there's one booth, two booths where you can actually capture footage from the looks of it. But I'm not too sure how it's all working. I'll probably hit up Greeny and see what the go is. I don't know. I just want to have fun, hang out with the guys because there's a bunch of guys going over. So that's sort of my main focus is just really enjoy the event. it's a bucket list thing that I've always wanted to do. So having the
Isn't Gaz
opportunity
going? Are you guys gonna catch up?
No. Gaz found out that I was going, and Gaz just pulled out of this one. I mean, he went last year and just decided not to go this year. I don't know why he's not going. Gaz, if you're out there, like, come visit me. I really want to sit down and have a conversation with you. I think we can really hammer it out.
I can't believe you dodged Riskit, bruv.
Now, why do you guys think Gaz is dodging Riskit? Why do you all think that?
Wow.
Oh, it might have something to do with because he's probably like to there on Riskit, maybe something like that.
They're the best of friends. They're pals.
You saying that he's tough behind a keyboard or a video camera, but not so tough in I don't know. Yeah. When you're
he's awesome. I like
Gaz.
Gaz.
You've got a keyboard. Yeah. You love Gaz. I know you love Gaz. Yeah. I mean, he has the voice of an 80-year-old woman, but that's not anyone's fault, but his parents. I guess.
Are you saying that I'm into 80-year-old women? Is that what you're saying?
How does an 80-year-old woman's voice sound, Riskit?
Riskit, Gaz is gonna. This is like 4 videos worth of content for Gaz right now, right?
For real. He's gonna.
I can't.
He's gonna.
I can't wait to.
You're gonna have sauce dripping off your chin, bruv.
Wait.
Hold on real quick, dog. Hold on.
This took a turn.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no lady here today.
Disappointing, We don't
that
get to sit
80-year-old
down
lady
and share
voice you did, by the way, sound like she going through some things. Is she demented?
That's what he sounds like. Oh, look, I mean, you sort of threw it out there. I try to keep it on the down low that me and Gaz aren't the best of friends, but
man, sorry about that.
I'd love to sit down and share a milkshake and really hammer out all of our problems. I could sort of
bring all the gases to the yard. Is that what you're telling us?
Talk it out, man.
I could bury the hatchet in his head.
Oh, Gaz, man, you got so much content here, bruv.
Gaz sounds like Colt Eastwood is clutching his nuts. That is solid.
Bro.
Absolutely solid.
Shout out to Colt, by the way.
There's plenty of content. I just can't believe, if we're going to talk about this, bro, I just can't believe he dodged me, man. He was going, and then as soon as I announced I was going, he was like, I'm too busy.
Fuck, bro. What have I started? I'm so sorry that I brought this up, guys.
Real life stuff going on, that's all it was.
Absolutely. He's got real life.
Oh, bro.
Pussy syndrome. Anyway.
I'm sorry, guys.
We should. You shouldn't have got me started. We should. It's all love. Me and Gaz are best of mates. Love you, Gaz. You're amazing. Anyway,
bro. Moving on.
Yeah. Moving on.
Shout out to Lotus Spree, who gifted another 5 memberships. Really appreciate you. And shout out to Mash, who also gifted 5 memberships. So you guys are absolutely amazing. If you're in the chat, please thank them. We do need to get out of here, because my dog keeps coming in here and messing up the show, and it was getting a little bit late. We could pass the 2-hour mark. So, Garuda, it's good to have you back this week. I don't know if we have you next week. I think we missed last week's one. You're not back next week, or you are?
No, I'm back at work for the next 2 weekends. So, that's it for a couple of weeks for me. So, you guys can all breathe a sigh of relief. But, I'll be back at some point. It's good that we got something to talk about this week. I mean, some of it was, unfortunately, quite a lot of it actually was negative, and which is sad, but there's lots of great games to play, and everything's about to start ramping back up again news-wise in the industry. Of course, we've got GamesCom coming up, man, so it's all happening. And man, thanks so much for having me. I like chatting shit with you guys, so it's awesome, bro. You're good dudes.
It's good to have you back every couple of weeks, but I don't know. I don't think it was overly negative this week. I think it's a lot of positive for Xbox this week. I think.
For Xbox, sure. I just mean the job losses are just. I hate that. Man.
Job losses. Yeah, no, it's fair. That is fair. And then, but I feel like Xbox is like I sort of. I don't know, I occasionally check in with people around the community and just ask the question, how you feeling about Xbox now? Because we've had a lot of negative stuff. I think the general feeling around the community is that from people who would be completely honest about how they feel. I think we're moving in a really good direction at the moment. I think Xbox is in a great position. So,
Bro, if you're not happy with Game Pass, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you if you're not happy with Game Pass. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
If you're not happy with Game Pass, it's just not for you. Unsub, just buy your
Gaming's not for you.
Yeah, gaming's not. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I mean, there's been some bangers in there, just small.
Right.
Yeah, it's been great for Xbox at the moment.
So good.
I think going forward, Donte.
Yeah, I'm Donte. That's crazy. Hey, great show, guys. Garuda's good to see you again, brother. Always. I want to give a special shout out to the chat, man, because as always, you guys are the best. Always really cool conversations being had within the chat. Everyone's respectful. I don't see nobody, hardly ever see too many ruffians coming in, talking a lot of nonsense, and then getting modded out. So appreciate you guys for always coming in and actually contributing to what it is that we enjoy with gaming. You guys can find me obviously on Twitter, or I'm not going to call it X, so Donte G Moody there. Boozy Box Office podcast is actually getting close to published to YouTube. So once it's there, I'll officially talk about it when it's officially up. And then also you can find me here. So I got words. I just don't know how to use them words. So shout out to all of y'all. See y'all next time. Peace.
Absolutely nailed it. Lethal Migraine there just said 300,000 people attend a day. The odds of him seeing you wouldn't be great, I would imagine. I would find him. Trust me. Umbra.
He would find him. He would be like, oh, he just posted. Oh, he's by that booth.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be at the Xbox booth, right? So that would be be interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if that would make the like announcements show. Umbra.
You're like, oh, there you are, mate. You'll be like,
Wow. Stop it. I'll hit you with my handbag.
Chill, bro. Chill, bro.
Oh, we're not doing this, are we? Are we really doing
around, I guess. Hey, listen, Gas, I'm sure can hold his own, man.
He can, bro.
Put the paws on you. Now, be careful. Don't underestimate him,
Telling you, bro. That sauce is going to be dripping.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess if he was armed, like an M60 or something, he could definitely hold his own. It was a fantastic week on the fix. I did turn you when you started talking about Wolverine and Deadpool because I didn't want the spoilers, so I did turn it down after that point.
Yeah.
I had you on, but I wasn't listening. I was just watching the chat, but
yes,
making sure everyone was doing the right thing. Let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, how your week's looking, and we'll get out of here.
Yes, good people. You guys can find me, of course, on Twitter, Infinite Umbra or Salutations. Salutations. You will find me either way. Salutations, guys. Come by on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock Eastern to see us.
We have offended so many people, man.
I'm sure we have. Shout out to Mr. Matty Plays. Salutations to him.
Salutations to Matty.
Thursday is the fix at 8 o'clock Eastern on my channel. So if you guys have not subscribed yet, please do so. I also posted a advert for the latest episode that we did. It was really a really good discussion, actually. But again, if you guys have not seen Deadpool, don't check it out unless you want to skip past that part. I do have stamps posted, so you're good to go either way. But consider giving us a view and come by on Thursdays for us, 8 o'clock or whatever time you're free. Replays work too. If you want to come by later and leave a brother a like and a comment, I would appreciate that. It helps with the algorithm. So as far as what I'll be up to, I'm about to jump back into this game called Soldiers, SOULDIERS. It's like Soul Dyers, and if you play the game, you'll kind of get why they're saying they labeled it that way.
Is it?
It is. Yeah, it's a Metroidvania style game.
Okay. All right.
It's really engaging. It's actually a really cool kind of concept.
Is it on PC only though?
I think it's on Xbox as well.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Get out of here.
I think it's on
I've heard
Xbox.
about it, bro. People say it's good, yeah.
It is really
People say
good,
it's
man. I like their approach to it. It's not the typical, you just got this one character. You can actually choose between 3. I said 4 the other day, but it's actually 3. It's the archer, the warrior with the sword and shield, and a mage that you can pick from. And it's a Metroidvania. It's really solid. I like it. It's got a lot.
Bro, it has been like a year for Metroidvanias, man.
Oh yeah,
crazy year.
It really has, and we got more to come. It's this one called, I think, Mariachi or something like that on Steam. That looks really dope. But yeah, reason I mentioned it for Steam, by the way, because shout out to Everborn and Kiasante, they put us up on it on their past show this past Saturday, and it was 59 cents on CD keys. So if you guys do have access to a Steam account, check and see if it's still available for that price and get it. Yeah, please change that out for the next show. There you go.
Hey.
Photo mode. That's what it sounded like. Yeah. Yeah, thank you guys for being here with us, and shout out to, of course, my panel members here, and good show, good discussion.
Thank you, guys, and don't forget to catch Riskit on the next episode of Pony Hunter next week on Gaz's channel, bro. He'll be getting held
Pony
down.
Hunter.
He'll be getting his back blown out by Safe Zaki.
Oh, you're going to see a real version of Pony Hunter.
Back blown out. Wait a minute.
Well, that's what he does. He jumps on the pony and
diabolical, dog. What is that,
bro? That's what he does. He holds him down. He gets up on him.
Man, woman.
Don't let him blow your back out, fam.
He said diabolical.
It's gonna happen, bro. You are gonna be on the next episode, bro.
I thought you were doing what's his name? Let's do names off the boys. He's like fucking diabolical.
Diabolical.
Protect your back, Riskit. That's all I want to say. Protect
Yeah,
your
bro.
back, fam. Don't get your back blown.
It's always protected. The front protects the back, and the back protects the front.
What if he just shows up there while you think he's not going to be there? He's like, "Yeah, talk your shit down, bruv." And he's just like,
What if he's like an awesome martial artist and he rips his shirt off and he's super jacked and ripped and he just fucking snap kicks you, bro? That'd be so sick.
I'll just put my hand on his head so he can't reach me. Be like,
oh, bro. This is loose, man.
He's going like, I know karate.
I know karate. That is a good impression, by the way.
But I know crazy.
Anyway, guys, you guys in the chat have been absolutely amazing. Really appreciate every single one of you. Please join us next week because I will be trying to go live next week. I don't know how to go, but try to join us next week. I'll be live in Spain and should be a very interesting show. You guys have been absolutely amazing today. And I just want to say salutations to everybody in the chat. Guys, absolutely amazing. Thank you for coming through and watching the show. Let's move on. We'll see you guys all next week. Guys, absolutely amazing.
See you guys.